Is your product perceived as mission critical? What kind of, are they spending money in the category? Are there some pending triggers, that could be market based, could be economic based, could be regulatory? What's the target health of the companies in that segment? All right. So, hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to my first LinkedIn Live on the ICP opportunity missed. We're going to be talking about the right and wrong ways to figure out your ideal customer profile. Just a little bit about me. I've been a CMO and P&L general manager a bunch of times. I spent 6 years with Serious Decisions and Forrester, coaching and mentoring CMOs and marketing VPs, which was a lot of fun. And since early 2021, I started my own business called Demand Revenue, which is at demandrevenue.com. And I basically do three things. I come on as an interim CMO for private equity portfolio companies. I coach and mentor CMOs, and I'm also a go-to-market advisor. We'll talk a bit about that. And I've worked with a number of times with the same private equity investors and their portfolio companies, and worked with over a dozen portfolio companies in the last 5 years. So welcome to LinkedIn Live, and hope you enjoy our discussion about ideal customer profile. So, I love this topic because I have seen so many times where companies feel they have the right ICP, but they really don't, for a lot of reasons that we're going to talk about. And it's the single biggest destroyer of exit values. So many companies have ICPs that are too broad. They target total addressable market and not bring it down to total relevant market. And there are a lot of negative downstream impacts in terms of revenue, business valuations. And as we'll talk about, instead of bringing on long-term profitable growth, you can often, with the wrong ICP, bring on a lot of debt and churn. And it's a real missed opportunity I've seen with a lot of companies, and many think they have an ICP, but it's often a delusion. And that could be the single biggest issue you have to growing your company long-term. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about 10 ways to figure out your ICP. The first 8 I call ICP traps, which are ways that companies often determine their ICP, but are flawed in a number of ways. So the first one is looking at revenue concentration. So where did your sales come from last year? Who paid us the most? This is looking backward to deals that you brought on, and not necessarily, deals you're going to be able to, or clients you're going to be able to keep and grow. Or perhaps your CEO wants you to be in fintech or some other, thinks a market is kind of cool. That's not a way to determine your ICP. Third is going the path of least resistance. Which deals are the easiest to close? Highest sales velocity. Your sales folks are trying to close deals and make the quarter, and the easiest ones to close often, become your ICP. But just because you can close them easily doesn't mean you can keep and grow them. Or there may be segments of the industry that are growing very quickly. There are a lot of tailwinds behind a certain segment, and you want to ride that wave. But you have to be careful that you're ready for that segment. And you, as we'll talk about, that you have the assets to be successful in targeting that segment. Next is everybody agrees on, we think this is a good target for us for whatever reasons, and you come to agreement in a meeting or a consensus. So that's more political, that may or may not be the right ICP to target. Or you may look at new business contributions. What deals are you able to sign up? And then a couple more. You can also look at who didn't buy, what deals stalled, do an autopsy of deals you won and deals you lost, and assume that deals you couldn't win shouldn't be in your ICP. where maybe you need to put more effort, and maybe if you were more data centric, you'd think of it differently. And then finally, the eighth is support ticket. Who complains the most? So if we don't want complaints, we'll gravitate to the ones that don't complain, and that's kind of a reactive way to determine your ICP. I've seen different companies use one or more of these potential ways to determine ICP, which I call traps, and oftentimes doesn't go well. So the alternative to figuring out your ICP that way is try to find a way to develop predictable, profitable growth. So for CEOs and investors in the board, you don't want growth at all costs. You want to make sure that you bring on new customers that will contribute to your enterprise value, your exit multiples, and your valuation over time. And that's not only a short-term, what's going on this quarter, that's long-term financial performance. For sales, instead of chasing ghosts, you want to target those ICPs that will have a high win rate to begin with, but it doesn't stop there, as we'll talk about. And then marketing, you want to go from vanity metrics to new customers that will contribute revenue, and contribute revenue not just this quarter, not just in the short term, but in the long term. This is the go-to-market operating system that I use with clients. I just thought I'd share it with you briefly. It has 8 different steps or pillars. And you can see the first one is total revenue, a total relevant market. So a lot of companies look at TAM, or total addressable market, but you want to take your TAM down to your total relevant market, which is a subset of TAM. And here you want to look at where you can grow the most to figure out your ideal customer profile. It's not TAM, it's narrower than that, and we'll talk about how to do that in a little bit. The next one is looking at a market investment map, which products will create the highest customer value, and how do you prioritize the products that you have, and which ones you really push to grow your business. Next is branded demand. How do you get a meaningful point of difference? What's your value proposition? How do you position your products and services to be compelling and differentiated to the ICPs that you select? Next is pipeline velocity. Which go-to-market motions will get you there the fastest? There's really 6. There's product level growth, customer level growth, sales level growth, community level growth, 6 of them. So how do you balance them to maximize your revenue potential? And then you look at customer time to value, or not just your ROI, but how do your customers see ROI? And how quickly do they see ROI after they become a customer? Next is, how do you expand your customers? So upsell and cross-sell. Then which go-to-market metrics will drive business health? It's really important cross-functionally to have a set of metrics that everybody agrees to. So you define collaboratively what good looks like. In working with hundreds of companies, I've seen so many times that problems with growth are caused by lack of internal alignment. And ICP is one way that a lot of companies are not aligned. And then finally, leadership and management. How do you give your teams clarity, alignment, and trust, and make sure everybody is working towards the same objective? So this is a great go-to-market operating system. If anybody's interested, I'm happy to discuss it with you. But it starts here, figuring out your ICP, which is really the subject of this talk today. I just wanted to put it in perspective for you. So how did you pick your target? And maybe when we get into the Q&A, I'd love to hear how many of you may have picked some of these ways to get your target. Was it, revenue concentration, looking backward to see who paid you, or some of these other areas? So these are the 8 traps, as I call them, that I've seen over and over again. And what's the impact of an issue of not picking the right ICP? The first is The first is what I call the churn factory. You may be acquiring the wrong type of growth. So instead of acquiring new clients that you can grow over time, you may be buying debt and churn. So if you bring on clients because they're easy to bring on, but you can't show value and you can't retain them and you can't grow them over time, you're buying debt long term, or you're buying churn. You're not buying long term profitability. So there's some hidden costs there. There's higher customer acquisition costs, higher support costs because they don't fit, and higher retention issues or churn issues when they leave. And those are really important, factors to think about, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. One of the fixes is creating some governance. Once you determine your ICP, you need to put governance around it. The strictest governance would be not to pay commission on non-ICP sales, but that's usually too strict. What you can do maybe instead is develop your comp plan so you incent ICP clients more with multipliers than non-ICP clients. There are different ways to do that. Second unintended consequence or issue is you're not on your ICP's short list. If you look at some of the research in the market from Ehrenberg or Sixth Sense, at any given time, only a fraction, about 5% of buyers are in market today to buy something. They will be in market sometime in the next 6 months or 18 months or 2 years, but very few of them are in market today. However, they are consuming content and they are learning about different solutions like yours and developing a short list of 4 to 5 vendors that they will consider when they do go in market. And the research also shows that the winner, once they go in market, will come from that list of 4 to 5 vendors 95% of the time. So if you're not creating brand gravity with the right ideal customer profiles, you won't even be on their short lists. And no amount of demand resources and investments will amplify the number of clients you can bring on if they didn't consider you from the beginning. You just won't even be, you won't have an at bat, which is a really serious issue. And then third is vanity metrics versus metrics that really will drive long-term performance. So if you have a loose ICP, that can lead to some vanity metrics like how many leads or clicks or activities, and you really need to focus more on tying marketing and financial and business metrics together. You want to look at win-loss percentages. So how successful are you at acquiring new customers? Lifetime value to customer acquisition costs. What's your efficiency in acquiring customers? And lifetime value is, how many years you're going to keep them, which gets into retention and growth. And then you want to look at gross and net revenue retention, which we'll talk about in a minute. And of course, gross margin and pricing power. And if you have brand gravity and you bring in prospects that are really interested and understand your benefits early on, those metrics are going to look better. So you want to convert your investments into financial outcomes, business outcomes, to show the success of having the right ICP. So let me give you a couple of examples. These are real, I'm not going to mention names, but these are real examples of 2 private equity portfolio companies I've worked with over the last 5 years. The first one is approximately a 900 million HR SaaS firm. And what they were doing is sales was signing small business accounts that were easy and fast to close, but their product was more enterprise centric, and also their customer success process was set up to support larger accounts. And so the result was a lot of churn, a lot of profitability issues, and a hit to their valuation. They were taking their precious resources and dividing between large accounts and small accounts. Small accounts were easy to bring on, but they were churning at a very high rate. They had a huge churn issue, which really killed their profitability and focus on the places that they should have put their bets to grow. So that was one example. Another example is a 200 million asset management software SaaS firm. Similar, they were signing low-hanging fruit, new business new business accounts were generally low end. They had a churn and burn philosophy, and a lot of their salespeople were turning over quickly as well. And their operations broke. They had low margins, lots of churn, profitability issues, and had to change that. So, I mean, it may seem obvious at times that, of course, you'd want to bring on new customers that will stay with you, that will be happy, that will appreciate your products and services and your value proposition, and will grow with you over time. And if you bring on customers that are going to churn, you may make the current quarter, but long-term wise, your financial profitability is going to suffer. So it's really important to consider that, and consider creating brand gravity up front so you get at-bats, as I mentioned before. I've seen a lot of instances where this is an issue, which is why I thought it was an important topic to discuss today with you. So we've gone through the 8 traps of determining ICP. Now what I'd like to do is move into what I'm suggesting we should do, to at least a couple things we should do to fix that problem and select the right ICPs. And I start with doing a customer cohort analysis. Hard for startups that are trying to get to problem market fit, where you're doing a lot of experimentation. You don't know who your customers are yet. So this is more for companies that are a little bit more developed, where you have customers and you can do a backward customer cohort analysis. And I like to start with 3 metrics. One is acquisition, looking at your win-loss percentages to find which clients were the easiest to get. So what were the win-loss percentages of different segments of customers doing customer cohort analysis? So that's number 1. Number 2 is retention. For each of those segments, what was your gross revenue retention? Did they stay? How long did they stay, which drives lifetime value? And looking at, both win-loss and gross revenue retention by segment, by customer cohort segment. And the third is expansion. Which of these customers that you acquired have the best net revenue retention? So I'd like to triangulate 3, at least initially, 3 metrics. Can you get them? Do they stay? Do they grow? Because if you're looking at long-term financial success, your best customers are the ones you keep happiest, that are easiest to acquire because they're a great fit. They stay, you retain them, and you can upsell and cross-sell over time. So this helps cut high velocity, low net revenue retention segments, and you can double down on the boring segments that are a lot more profitable and print money in the long term. Your CFO will love you for this. So that's step 1. I think it's important to look backwards and do a customer cohort analysis. Once you've done that and you have segments that you're thinking of investing in, then you go to step 2, which I'm calling a market opportunity and readiness matrix. So there are 4 quadrants here, and the y-axis is market attractiveness. Which segments are most attractive from an external standpoint? So in that segment, is there a very competitive landscape? Is your product perceived as mission critical? What kind of, are they spending money in the category? Are there some pending triggers, that could be market-based, could be economic-based, could be regulatory? what's the target health of the companies in that segment, and what are some key trends. So looking at tailwinds and headwinds that will allow you to kind of gauge market attractiveness by segment is the first thing. Then the y-axis is internal readiness. Are you ready to be successful today? Do you have brand gravity in each of these segments? As I mentioned before, do they know who you are? It's not just awareness, it's preference. It's what do they associate your brand with? Have they consumed your content? Are they up on your brand? Are they interested? Are you going to have at bats? So that's the first. Do you have a database so you can reach these customers? Do you know who they are in each of these segments? Can you outreach to them? Are they a good fit with your products and solutions? Do you have the right products in terms of what each segment needs? Do your people have domain experience? Do you have the right messaging and value proposition and a meaningful point of difference? And do you have the right sales channels or enablement and the right go-to-market motions, as we discussed earlier? So you look at and combine the segments that are attractive externally, but you don't stop there. You also look at your readiness to be successful. And then what you can do is you can, I don't know if it's a word, quadrifurcate, but you can split the segments into one of four categories. So a lot of folks target this, which you've got a high market attractiveness, but you're not ready. And here, instead of investing a lot in this segment, you should develop capabilities so you can be successful. I'm sorry, I just got a message here. So you can be successful. You need to build your internal strength to be successful in this segment. These you should avoid, not invest anything. So low market attractiveness and you're not ready. These you should not put any investments in at all. If there is low market attractiveness, but you're doing really well and you're very ready, you may want to farm the base here opportunistically. And this fourth is really the bullseye. This is where you've got a very attractive market for these segments. There are a lot of tailwinds and reasons to target it externally, and you're well set up to be successful. So this is where you would put your primary investment when you're looking at segmentation of these. And this is after doing a customer cohort analysis. Okay, let's see. So getting near the end, I wanted to have a lot of time for Q&A. You don't have to do the heavy lifting. This is, working with CMOs and CEOs and companies, private equity portfolio companies. I help with these kinds of problems with the go-to-market OS framework I showed you earlier. The first step is ICP, and I think it's really important to take a look at your win-loss, gross revenue retention, net revenue retention, how you govern your ICP, how you build out a readiness metrics, and target those segments that will be profitable for you in the long term. So I'd like to open it up to Q&A.
Okay, hey, first of all, before we look at it, I checked while you were talking, and it turns out quadrifurcate or quadrificate, which is like bifurcate or it's actually a word.
It is a word. Okay.
I was like,
I wasn't sure.
110% sure you'd screw that up, but nope. No, you
okay.
Lucked into that one.
Okay. I thought I was making it up. I know, bifurcate, trifurcate, quadrifurcate. Okay. All righty.
Yeah. So congratulations on that. I would have bet real money that you'd mess that up.
I thought I was messing it up too. Yeah. But yeah. So I wanted to.
I
leave
like
a
the
lot
advice
of time
about be boring. That makes a lot of sense.
Sorry.
I like the advice about be boring.
Yeah. Boring and profitable.
Yeah.
So I can't see the chat or how many folks or any of that.
Well, that's okay. Folks are about 45 seconds to 60 seconds behind you. Okay. In LinkedIn Live. So, This slide that you have up just popped on 3 seconds ago.
Okay. So if anybody has questions, or I guess we come in live, I'm not sure. This is my first LinkedIn Live. I'm not sure exactly how to do that, but
No, we're good. You can leave it up.
did I just make it smaller? Did it change anything, or just
No,
change
you made
my-
it big and we're not on screen anymore.
Oh, I did.
It's okay.
Okay, how's that?
There you go. Now we're back to the old style.
Okay.
I mean, we're so small. I'm not sure it makes any difference if anyone sees us or not. Like going full screen is fine. It's not going to hurt anything.
Okay. Let's see, like this.
And
How's
Alan,
it?
I'm not sure what you're seeing, but on the right-hand side of your screen, do you see the chat?
No, I don't.
No.
I can't see the chat.
I mean, like in StreamYard.
No.
Okay. I have 3 options for the chat. One's a recording, one's comments, and one's chat between you and me. So when I click on comments, I see what people are putting.
Oh, I see comments here. Wait a minute. Yeah. Let me click on
There
it.
you go.
Oh, I see.
So if you look at the very
Oh,
bottom,
thanks, Erica. Now I see comments.
yeah, go to the very bottom, and Mark's asking about the value of buyer personas in the ICP realm.
Yeah. Hi, Mark. I think buyer personas are very valuable with one caveat. Don't do too many of them. I've seen companies, create these really elaborate buyer persona decks that few people use. Pick your top personas. And the other thing I've seen is the importance of if you have a lot of products in your arsenal in your company, try to look for common personas across the products. And instead of marketing by product, which I call product selfies, consolidate on the fewer personas that cross products and start with their pain points, and then bring in the products that they have an interest in. So I think persona development is really valuable, and looking at their company personas, their individual and personal personas. There are different ways to look at it, but I would pick the few that really make a difference and go with that. Hopefully that helps.
Okay. And then Rochelle wants to know, that's fine for existing products and stuff, but what if it's a new offering? How do you define an ICP for a new offering?
How do you define an ICP for a new offering? Do a lot of research on the market and understand, what they're looking for. And then look at how well you're set up to be successful. First of all, it goes to that, step 2. If you don't have any, if you don't have any prior customer cohort research, it may be difficult to do that. So you want to do a lot of market research and understand who's been successful with products like that and what they're doing. I think you would start there. And then as you get some data, you would know more to be able to sharpen your ICP.
And besides research, what do you think companies tend to forget when they're developing an ICP for a new product or a new service?
Well, oftentimes, especially with startups, they're doing a lot of experimentation. I think what they sometimes forget is they make a lot of assumptions and they don't do enough A/B testing, and they don't do enough research with customers and finding out what works and what doesn't. Sometimes you have to fail quickly and do a lot of testing and A/B research to find the right path.
So iteration, basically.
Sorry?
To fine-tune it.
Iteration
To fine-tune it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually you have to be iterative. Like, companies usually go through 3 pivot points. So when you're a startup, you've got to get problem market fit. You've got to, develop solutions for problems that people are willing to pay for. And at that stage, you're doing a lot of experimentation. You're trying things, you're failing things. You don't know who your ICP is yet. You're kind of falling over, but you're trying to figure it out. And if you're successful there, then you'll go from problem market fit to product market fit, where you need to begin to develop some scaling processes, to repeat the same thing over and over again and be more productive. And if you're really successful there over time, as your business grows even more and you have multiple products and target audiences, then you go to platform market fit, where probably the majority of your customers, the majority of your sales opportunities are your existing customers, and upselling and cross-selling your customers.
All right. Garrett has a question. I'm going to try to interpret it. I think what Garrett's asking for when he's talking about examples or a template of a clearly defined ICP is, have you come across or helped create or know of examples of what success looks like for a company that's actually like put together their best, maybe bulletproof ICP, and it's really working for them?
Yeah, there's some. I mentioned the go-to-market operating system I use. In addition to doing cohort analysis and doing kind of market targeting analysis, there are a bunch of templates that look at, what specific pain points they're dealing with, how you're appealing to those pain points, what technologies are they using, what are the firmographics, and putting that in. I've got templates like that with my go-to-market operating system. I mean, we didn't have time today to go into that level of detail, but there are templates that are used to determine ICPs successfully.
And I'm going to ask a dumb fundamental question here. Generally, when a company has put in the time and the effort and they've figured out, I won't say defined, I'll say figured out their ICP, what format is that in? Is it typically a Word document? Is it a deck? Is it an infographic? Like, how are they communicating that to the marketing and sales teams that need to know it?
Well, I've seen it as generally a deck, but you don't want it to be too long. You want it to be simple so people can understand it. And a point I didn't make, should have made, is that the work to determine the ICP isn't just a marketing job. It's got to be a crossfire. It's got to be marketing, sales, product, customer success, and finance. Everybody has to be on board. So there's a consensus on what the ICP should be, or people will just, make it up for themselves or not listen to it. But generally I've seen it's a deck, and, then it's tools or sales enablement tools for the sales force. And to get to governance, it's also looking at the compensation plan of the salespeople and overlaying that so you execute what you strategize. Because if that doesn't match, you can, I've seen companies where they did this big ICP study, had a long PowerPoint template that no one looked at.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing, because it really is, when I think of being success in business, it's, ready, aim, fire. And, ready and aim is what your ICP gives you.
Right. All right. And then there are two ways to pronounce this name. So I apologize for the one that I get wrong. And hopefully it's either Reagan or Regan. Wants to know, or basically makes a statement first that says not paying commissions on non-ICP sales has got to be a nuclear option for most companies.
Yes.
Like, have you actually seen that done in real life?
I've seen a couple companies do it, smaller companies. Yes, it is the nuclear option. It's more Machiavellian. That's why I recommend, that's going all the way. What most companies will do instead is look at the comp plan to make sure they motivate and incent reps that bring on ICP deals more, and a lot more than non-ICP deals. You'll still bring on some non-ICP deals, but if you don't have governance, that you don't know what's going to happen later. And you may be like I said, you may be bringing on debt and churn, which kills growth long term.
Yeah. All right, that was a bunch of questions. We've gotten to the end of the question list. Any final words before we sign off? Give people back some time.
Just, I've seen a lot of companies that think they have their ICP defined, but when you dig down, it's a really big problem more often than people think. And even if you've done a great job figuring out your ICP, getting everybody on the same page, not just marketing. It can't just, like I said, can't just be a marketing project, but getting everybody on the same page and putting governance around it so you're all moving in the same direction. is rarer than I would like to find it. I see it's a problem
Right.
with a lot of big companies. As companies grow bigger, alignment becomes more of an issue.
Right.
More of an issue. And a stat that I often quote from my Serious Decision days, which was a study of 400 B2B companies, is that companies that get to alignment and stay aligned grow 19% faster and are 15% more profitable. And it's as true now as it was then. I mean, alignment is everything, and ICP is a real manifestation of that alignment.
All right. Well, you've done this for like a bazillion companies, at least 100 that I know of. So there you go. All right. So that's it for us today. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks, Alan. Appreciate this.
Thank you very much.